Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And today we're talking a little bit about recruiting, right? Some recruiting and also some candidate attribute recognition, sort of at the onset of the candidacy, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we were trying to come up with some clever title, and Brian's normally really he's on the spot. We don't even know what's coming, but he hits it, and it's like, that's a great title. And this one, we struggled with what the title could be, but I was out at BCTC, and we're doing an event that we do every year. Many companies visit, in the trades, and the kids cycle through. So you see,
is it like a speed dating?
It is kind of like speed dating, and there's some piece to it that I think that maybe could improve or improve the kids so that you see more than the one leader, right? But so there's basically 4 groups that cycle through. So HEO is heavy equipment operators, 5 groups. The mechanics for heavy equipment and otherwise, carpentry, masonry, and then building construction, which is sort of a amalgamation of a few of the different ones. And so each group cycles through. So if you're a building contractor, well, it might not be as relevant to see the mechanics or the operators, but you see everybody,
sure,
and you get to interact with them, and you can sort of explain how it interacts and how a carpenter or a mason might be someone who would want to apply at Berg. You know what I mean? Because we do pipe work and we do this other stuff, and it wouldn't be really what you're learning to do, but if you wanted to experience it and find out, at 15, 16, 17, did you make the right decision to go into that one? Could be viable. And so we sort of try and speed date and talk through that. But one of the things that I really started with was one student in particular came in, and there was many of them that had good, solid handshakes. But there was just something about this one kid, the way he approached me, the way he carried himself. Yeah. It was a one-on-one conversation. He made a point to grab me, have a conversation with me about it. And he had like a Matt Glembaki handshake. You know what I mean? And this was a handshake. I mean, it wasn't Matt and him handshake competition. Matt wins.
Sure.
But it was solid. He was a farm boy, grew up running equipment, owns his own excavator, a little one, but just for work around the farm, right? So it's everything about this was like, this is my guy. You know what I mean? If I come out of here with just this one guy, that's good. And we switched groups, and there was a minute, and I walked over to Stetson, and I was like, I don't know that you met him. I was like, but that kid, and I said his name, I was like, he's the one. We got to remember him because I think he could be the right one. And so that's sort of what started me on this path. And the speed dating thing, with this is, what was it about him that made me notice him versus other people, right? It wasn't his resume. I didn't see him operate. I don't know what his grades are. I don't know how much he attends school. I don't know a lot of things about him. But I knew a few things that meant something to me right out of the gate. And so what were those things, and were they valid? Was it a valid position to hold that quickly?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think that the age-old adage that you don't get a second chance of making a first impression, I think it's still big. I think it's still really big in the networking, recruiting, business development, all of those things, right? If you show up and you look the part and you say the right things and act prepared, you get a second chance usually, or at least, you buy a few more minutes. And I think that's a big piece of it. The handshake is huge, right? Like our generations, right? I don't know, Ford, I think you could probably attest to this, but I don't know how many times you were told, as a young man, handshake, that you got to have a firm handshake and look somebody in the eye when you're saying hello. Right?
Do you know what I struggle with?
That was it.
Yeah. Ford, you know what I struggle with on the handshake thing really is I try and do that at all times, especially in these environments. I want to meet them where they are. They're there to show up for a job. I'm going to take it seriously. Yeah. And then you get someone that you're going to shake their hand, and they give you half of their hand, and there's not enough of their hand for me to have a firm handshake. Now you've messed up. Now, on the opposite side, now I'm really frustrated because you took the time to come meet me face to face, and you want to shake hands, but then you don't even allow. You've blocked me from shaking hands.
Now your handshake feels
now
weird.
My handshake. I'm frustrated with my own handshake.
Yeah.
Well, okay. There's the good thing for you. So I can count probably 5 or 6 times in my life that I can still remember a bad handshake, whether it's because the timing was off, the hand, you just didn't have the firm. There's been a couple of them that later I could go back after and be like, man, that handshake, usually a timing thing, or you think someone's going to give you a handshake, then they go, especially since COVID, they go with the fist pound or some other thing. You're or the bro hug, all those kind of things. But you're just the handshake is the age old thing. I'm not saying to sign a deal level, but we've had some people we've met that their handshakes aren't. And it's really interesting, like you said, he did the eye contact, the handshake, but I know we went to a different recruiting event and people were like showing up in their pajamas.
And he was not in pajamas. Yeah.
Clogs. And it's like, listen, we don't always wear, we're not suited and booted. We're not always at like the finest attire, except for Brian, of course, who's always,
he always looks the part.
Shirt, collars and stuff. But, at the appropriate times, presentation is super important.
So
especially the time when there's a new person or a new thing, like Brian said, there is only one time, you can, I guess, work back from it, but really you got one time to make that first impression. And after that, things can go differently either way. Right. But literally that's what's going to stick in someone's mind, that, spaghetti noodle or whatever the situation is. That's what people are going to remember.
We got a guy, Ford, that you and I interact with from time to time, and I always know it's coming. I know it's coming. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't. It feels like half a handshake. Maybe he was trying to dap you up. I don't know what's going on there,
and it messes you up.
Yeah,
right. It like knocks you. Like now
I've tried to counter it too. I don't know about you, Ford, but I've tried to counter. I've tried to like get in there firmly before he gets in there weekly. I'm like, I don't know what it is. Like it's half closed. I don't know.
It's not an arm wrestling competition. Like, I want to still feel my fingers when I leave the handshake, but there is just
Matt takes it over the top. To it. You know what I mean? Like Matt's handshake is for real. You got to be prepared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's
Stetson's got a pretty good.
I mean, Ford's got a pretty firm handshake, but Ford's thing, it's this was not the topic.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing it. But
we're not going to make a list.
I'm not going to make a list. I'm not doing it. But one of the things off of that. So I sort of go two different places because I don't want to lose it. There was one kid and he came in with a question. It was out of time. That he was in the wrong group, and honestly, the teacher or support staff kind of made like a fool of him by like, you're not supposed to be over here and come back over here. And it was a whole thing. And we made everybody feel uncomfortable. When the kid came back, we were like, oh, you're here. Like we made it like okay,
sure.
Because if it was me, it would have been uncomfortable. Like I got pulled out of there. I probably would have made a little more of a scene than he did of it. Be like, I'm not gonna go where I want. And but he came back and his question was, he had one question about phones, and then somebody else, I think it was him though, said, what would be like he didn't say a turnoff, but what would be like a turnoff in an interview? Like we're not hiring. Mm-hmm. We're not hiring this guy. And we gave, a couple culture answers and we gave okay answers, and we're eating lunch and Tracy was talking about another event we went to with like pajama pants and perhaps hair things that were eaters or something. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know why we didn't say that. Like, you show up in pajama pants with, like Stetson said, with a tail. Like, we're not going to, that's not the environment we're in. But the sort of funny part that I tie that to in my head, honestly, is when I'm trying to focus on what it is, right? It's the why. And these kids showed up, that the ones that I remember showed up and they made themselves known. There's a group of 5 kids and they walk in and one kid takes the lead and has the questions. Okay. And the other people might nod and they might be engaged and they had a good handshake, but this one person is asking like pertinent questions. They care and they sort of have the why, and you can't teach that why. Well, you know what I mean? Well, like you can teach someone to do like you can teach someone to grease a machine. You can teach someone to hold grade. You
think in that environment the kids were asked to have like one person who kind of coordinates all the questions, or do you think that it was just like,
I think it was personality. I think it was
just one person took over
because it didn't have like then once things like once they were comfortable, the other kids would ask questions. But the one person, not in every group, because there were some groups that nobody asked any questions. Nobody they just were there because they were supposed to be there, And in other groups, there was a couple of people who did it. So I shouldn't have said one person, but just It was someone who was more engaged, and you identified that because we need that in the blue collar industry. I think you need that. If you can't be firm in a classroom or in a small environment in an interview, what's it going to be like when you're interacting with Gary Rambo, right? Or with Stetson, and not to single out the 2 guys, but in other words, like, when they're on a job site and they're trying to give you some direction with thousands of horsepower of machines running and backup alarms, and it's dusty and dirty and windy and raining, whatever the conditions. Yeah. How's that going to go when they're trying to yell at you when you're not even okay in this soft environment to put you into that hard environment and then expect a different reaction. So I think that's what's really big that the kids need to understand in this environment is we're not trying to evaluate. I wonder how he'd be in a classroom. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like what matters is how do we portray that they're going to behave in our world, right? And where we work.
Yeah, and that's tough. I mean, I do think that there is relevance to classroom environment and like people showing up and being attentive and getting it done. I know it doesn't always translate to like, them like being dedicated or diligent in their job performance, but I think there's something to be said for that. But I think that, the handshake's a good one. I think that there are definitely other things that like kind of, do you get the tip off in the first 5 seconds of meeting somebody? Like, what is this going to look like? And one that I actually always used to talk to, like some of the women who used to work at our front desk area, was the way somebody walks. I think like the way somebody like carries themselves is a good indicator too. Can be a good indicator. Yeah. I think, if each one of us has been in spots where you had to be a little more confident than your skill level or preparation suggested you should be to fit in long enough to figure it out and be good at something. And I think that's, I think what you're describing in some ways is like competence.
Fake it till you can make it.
Right? Competence and confidence, right? Like people who are like, are prepared and don't have a problem, being in front of you and presenting themselves.
For me, it's that it is a confidence thing, but for me, it's a want to. Like in other words, I acknowledge that this is uncomfortable. Like if we made our own kids do this, they would be uncomfortable, right? And maybe not uncomfortable is not the right word, but we're asking them to, hey, I want you to step into an environment with a bunch of people you don't know and ask questions or sell yourself or some version of that. You know what I mean? Like be sociable. Show show them who you are in 5 seconds. That's a big ask for kids. But if you can't do that, right? Then I think, and you sort of put that with the handshake thing, right? And you end up in a place where it's not just like a social mistake, right? Like we know people that have bad handshakes and it's just like it's a social faux pas thing. Like, oh man, that guy with the handshake. But in our world, in that window of 20 seconds or 5 minutes, is it more than that? That's what I was starting to think. Is it more than that? Is it like not that you're not situationally aware that in this environment, you're going to need to come up, make eye contact, have a solid handshake, right? Are you not situationally aware enough? Or are you not like, what if you were shaking Gary Rambo's hand, right? Like in other words, you come out to the job site and you give Gary Rambo that handshake. I don't know how that's he's going to immediately perhaps make a decision.
The tough part is I think I think part of what you're trying to do is project perceived importance in every circumstance. Yeah. And not everyone can pick up on that. Right. Like you said, what if you're shaking Gary Rambo's hand? And I think that you or me or a lot of our folks, with the first time they're meeting someone who, is in Gary's position or whatever, they're going to present themselves in a certain way. But some people don't necessarily perceive the importance of that interaction the same way. And so they don't prep for it. They don't, they're not prepared for the potential ramification of, how they present themselves in that moment.
And we do, at least I know even now, I'm conscious of it for now. Like if we happen to we have some event and there's a charity thing and we're going to go play golf. I've gotten to the point where if I know the event is early and I don't have any job sites to go to, I will wear an outfit that is reasonable for work, that I'm going to golf in, right? I still have pants on. I still have not shorts. I still have, you know what I mean? I could go anywhere, but I am not ready for a job site. I don't have my construction boots on. I'm not in work pants. And like, I don't really want to see Tom Berg. You know what I mean? Like now Tom could know that I'm going to play golf later that day and Tom plays golf. But if Tom sees me, you know what he's going to say? Headed to the country club today. Like, it's because that's not what I'm supposed to be working. You know what I mean? So situationally, I know like, even if Tom was with us golfing, I'd be like, I'd rather not see Tom until I get to the golf course because I am concerned that Tom will make some evaluation like, you know what I mean? Like, what's Dan up to? Look at this outfit. You know what I mean? Like, so even for myself, I'm situationally aware of it, that how it is supposed to look, what I am supposed to do. And I think that came, I mean, it's me, but it's also how Ford intended things to run, I think, and how Ford always behaved.
Well, so two things funny about this is, part of it's generational, part of other things. But back when I was part of Vistage, a lady came in and she actually, her job was the younger generations would hire her to help them with situational awareness because there was no situations in their life. She literally explained an experience where a VP of a company had a young recruit that she thought that they had a lot of potential, this person. So she got them to be able to do a presentation in front of the board of directors for this company X. Like, I don't know the company. And she's sitting there at the board meeting and he's not there. And she called him. She's like, hey, where's Shad? He's like, well, it's a beautiful day. I figured I would just call in from and do my presentation from online at the park.
Yeah. Huh. How'd that work?
Right? Like, it's not even about like if he could do the presentation. She was setting up an experience where he was going to get FaceTime with a group of people that were decision makers. And it was so unavailable. It just did not even connect that level.
Yeah, just
you think about is it because everything is the same now? I mean, we were just talking about this the other day about, since COVID, theoretically, you can go into a steakhouse in a t-shirt, right? There is no understanding of,
but would you? Right? Like Ford, you yourself, like, would you?
Oh, no. But I mean, I had the experience beforehand. But I'm just saying that there is no, like, maybe the people aren't religious. They don't go to church. They don't dress up on a Sunday there is no deference to the event or the space.
Yeah. So Ford,
I understand going to your event, like a meet and greet thing, but we were always taught too, the thing in the elevator speech, you always had to have something in the back of your head that if you got in the elevator with
the right
X,
person.
Y, and Z, you could explain everything clearly in under, 90 seconds or a minute, whatever. I forget what the exact number was.
30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's 30.
30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah. But you had to be able to sell whatever you were trying to sell in the elevator pitch, right? Like condense it, cut all the fluff out. This was just get the meat and bones out in that 90 seconds because you had to be aware of where you were and the situation.
Yeah, Ford. So we actually, and Ford knows my cousin Liv. So Liv's getting married, and so is Mia, same year. And so Liv's, her wedding's black tie. I don't know if we talked about this. And I called her and I was like, is this really a black tie wedding? Like, the girls are going, like, I have to buy gowns. And she was like, well, yeah, I'd really like everybody to be dressed nice. And we got to the bottom of it. I was talking to her sister, Mia. And Mia said, well, what's really going on here is like a generational thing where the kids our age will just show up at a wedding in like jeans and a shirt and like a sport coat. Or at best. And she said, so we're both making it like formal because really we just want you to wear a suit. Like your family, so if you could wear black, it'd be appreciated. But, if you're going to wear blue or you're going to, like, she's like, I'm okay. She was like, but if we don't say it anymore, then people are going to show up at our like wedding that we want to look a certain way and they're going to be in a t-shirt. Yeah. And I was like, what? Well, who would show up at a wedding in a t-shirt? But, per Ford, the steakhouse reference, it apparently is now. I mean, if normally you wear pajamas, like pants and a shirt and a sport coat, that's like a tux. That's fancy. And then Ford, the other thing that really struck me was, I want to be clear, it's something more than the handshake, right? Because another person who got our attention, we have Brianna, who's been really solid. And we made her an offer. She's going to come on board. It looks like, she accepted. So we expect that once she's done school, she's going to be here full time. She's done amazing. We're thrilled with it. There was a few girls there, a few women. And one of them, I would say she looked like she was ready to go to work. Like if you said to me, can that girl run equipment? I would say, I believe I would trust her to run equipment or jump in a trench, right? She had on jeans that had like a star-spangled, like a flag in the flare part of the bottom, and her nails matched the pants, right? So like if you said, hey, a person showed up for the equipment operator position, it was a woman, and her pants and she coordinated with her nails, and they were fancy. You would say like, well, I don't know if that's right. But everything about her, how she carried herself, how she asked questions, how she interacted, and her confidence said she belonged there. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm bringing her up specifically because of that. So like if I told you that, it would be almost like the handshake. Well, I don't know. You can't, I mean, those kind of nails, and you're going to be an operator. But she left no question that she belonged there. Like, I belong. You know what I mean? Like, and it didn't, and I even said to Stetson, I was like, she had on nicer boots than you did. She had on like Stetson cowboy boot, square toed, and they were worn. They like, you know what I mean? Like she had worked in those boots.
Okay.
So it was like, I noticed.
Well, is that like circling back to the trades? Like, we're talking about specific to us, but I think that we talked about this before. We have this weird dynamic. Like, we can teach anybody. And so if someone doesn't have some of these characteristics, they can either be taught or they can do other jobs in the industry. But at the same time, we have to be honest with the people. Like, this is hard work. This is rough and tough. This is outdoors. This is, because, saying we're for everybody isn't like there for a little while. It's like, we just need more people in the trade. So we'll take anybody. And really, it's kind of shifted off of that. I mean, for us, it's definitely a culture thing. But the secondary factor is, unfortunately, it's not for everybody. If you don't want those things, you're just wasting everybody's time, your own time, the people that hire you's time. And so, like, that's why some of these events where people are focused already on coming into the industry are so important, because we know that they've made conscious choices that they want to be in the industry in some aspect.
Yeah, they're already in a spot where they've kind of started down the road, right? I mean, I think when you go to like the random recruiting events, or like meet the local company recruiters at the high school gym kind of thing, it's like everybody, like you could be going for a job at McDonald's, or you could be talking to us about being a heavy equipment operator. And so I think that, when we go into those environments, you get the pajamas and you get the folks who are just getting out of class, and, they might be looking for the job at McDonald's, and we just happen to also be there. And
they're just looking for a paycheck.
Yeah. It's just not like someone who's operating with purpose at the moment.
Right. And that's sort of when I sent you the message, that's what when I sent you the message and said what I wanted to sort of talk about it, the way I labeled it was the driver versus the passenger.
Sure,
I don't want the passenger. I want the person that wants to drive. I want the person that has the drive and that exact thing, that wants to do something. Because, to get out there and do what our people do every day, not what you and I do, right? But what they do, what made Ford want to start Berg Construction years ago. Like, you do have to want to sit on big equipment. It's going to be loud. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be dusty. It's going to be hot. It's going to be cold. It's going to be dry, or it's going to be wet. You know what I mean? Like, very rarely is it perfect conditions.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's always something that most people would deem unpleasant. But at the end of the day, every day you do something and you see the results right in front of you. You know what you did. You can quantify it. You can see it. And after you string a bunch of those days together, there's something there that wasn't there before. You changed Ford says it sometimes, like, you changed the face of the earth. You manipulated what it looked like and made something new. Yeah. And if you don't have the desire to do that, then I think that's part of what I'm trying to figure out. But I'm trying to use things that I can tangibly see to determine, like, if you have that drive. And that's where I question, like, am I looking for the right thing? But I feel like we've zeroed in on what we're looking for as a trait and as an attribute. Yeah. And I think that was what surprised. There was a couple kids. I forget if they were masonry, if they were carpenter, but they were taken back by, as I had said, like, because one of them said, like, I wanted to be in the equipment program, but it's so hard to get into that program. And I said, well, the thing is, I said, like, it is good what they learn here, and it is beneficial. And I'm a big supporter of that program. But if you have the want to, and you chose to go to BCTC and you learn a skill, we can teach you to run a dozer. We can teach you to run a track hoe. We can teach you the grades. If you want to, we can teach you that, because you have the thing that we can't capture most times. You have the want to do it, the drive.
Yep. Yeah, there's a word we have used in the past. And I think it's like grit. You can't really teach grit,
and you can't fake grit,
and you can't fake grit either. Yeah,
you can fake it for a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's sometimes, Brian, that's what we say in snow, right? Like, it's an odd tie-in, but that's what we see in snow. Is sometimes when it goes to when it's the worst. I mean, it's 4 degrees and nothing's working, and you see a guy trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, trying to just figure out how to get it done.
I think, Ford, was it you, or maybe it was Luke? I think one of the two of you, though, at one point had like a grit test, it was like an add-on to the application that we that we wanted folks to fill out.
It was the thing from Mike Rowe, right?
Well, there is that.
You don't mean that thing on the wall? People had a sign that said, like,
No.
I'm not guaranteed anything in life. I have to go out and like.
No, it was
No,
it
there
was
was-
in that
Brian's
vein, but we didn't use it. It's not something that like any HR personnel would actually sign off on.
It would have been one that somebody shot us
Yeah.
down on.
Yeah, you can't put that in.
I do remember that
but-
idea though.
Yeah, I think maybe it was Luke.
It
We had the
sounds like
Mike Rowe
Luke.
thing that we signed off on, but this was something that I think Luke maybe was trying to include in the application process, where you had to like
And Ford Luke is like
answer some questions.
Ford's brother Luke is like one of my favorites because he is exactly what he is, and he's always the same, very consistent, always get what you get. But he has some funny one-liners that he has said to me, and I'm like, did you really just say that? Because he'll tell me I can't do something that like is totally what Luke does all the time. But when he sees me want to do it, he's like, well, is that fair to everyone? And I'm like, all right, hold on, wait a minute. I mean, but Luke is Ford. How long have I said Luke is he's never unreasonable, or what do I always say? He's not unfair. He's just unreasonable, right? Like Luke's expectation of what is required to be the minimum standard of care is so much higher than what most people think is where they're trying to strive. And so when Luke finds somebody that jives with Luke, then you really got somebody that has drive, has why, you know what I mean? Because Luke expects that as a bare minimum.
Yeah. No, good conversation, and like I don't know how you evaluate that on a regular basis. Like it's so tough to evaluate some of these things, and if you're not presented the right opportunity to to witness it or see it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brian, I think that's the key and that's why we talk about the handshake is like, you got a 20-second, 2-minute window at these events for this kid. This is a PSA, if anything, for people, but like you have that small window. So the only things that the other side or our side can choose from or what stands out is small things, small but large things like a handshake, like the way you carry yourself, because we don't have enough time to get your life story. We don't have enough time to know your experience. All we have is that short amount of time. And so if you only have those fleeting moments to make an impression, like make the most of it.
Yeah.
No.
And just like Ford's saying, you don't know which moment is the moment. You know what I mean? Like the person in the boardroom, you know what I mean? Or when you're in the elevator, you don't know. So situationally, always try to be aware, and look at it ahead of time and understand. And if it's not for you, then fine, stand in the back. You know what I mean? Let the people who are interested engage. You don't have to engage, but I would hate to think, I am certain there are some kids in that room who really were interested in, Brubacher, Myers, or Schlock, H&K. They were all there, right? But may not have felt confident enough to go stand up and say like, hi, I'm Joe, and shake their hand. You know what I mean? And all they had to do was stand up and shake their hand and say, hi, I'm Joe. And the guy would have remembered. You know what I mean? The person would have remembered, because the majority of people right now are hesitant to do it, right? So that's sort of the message I wanted to make sure I got out there, was to talk about how we do it and what I thought and how I felt going through the event. But more make sure, if any kids happen to listen to this, if any people that are looking, listen, like, know that moment is always standing right there. You just have to take the moment. And if you don't, that's your own fault, because the moments were always there. It's just a question of when the moment came. Did you do something, or did you stand in the back and hope someone would notice?
Yeah, for sure. That's probably a fair place to wrap it up. Thanks for joining us today, folks. I hope you got something from this, and I hope you come back for another episode.